The room is spacious, but there's almost no extra clutter. There's a large, dark wood table, two leather chairs, and built-in closets. A large painting with abstract lines hangs on the wall. There are no windows. Changmin stands in the middle of the office. He's already dressed in his wedding suit. It fits him perfectly. He doesn't like fabric to wrinkle or be baggy. He checks his watch. 3 hours until the ceremony. The door opens without knocking. A man in a formal suit enters. He is younger than Changmin. His name is Seok. He is holding a tablet. "Everything is ready," says Seok. His voice is quiet and clear. "Tell me an order," Changmin asks. He doesn't sit down. He's used to listening standing up. Seok begins his report. He talks about security. Guards are stationed throughout the hotel and grounds. Each has their own station. No one can pass unnoticed. Then he moves on to the guests. The list has been double-checked. Every guest is known. No surprises. Gifts are already being checked in a separate room. Changmin nods. He looks not at Seok, but somewhere in front of him, as if checking an internal checklist. "And the audience?" he asks. "The flowers were delivered an hour ago. White orchids. Just like you wanted. The musicians are rehearsing. The lighting has been checked. There won't be any electrical problems. Road? The road from the hotel to the restaurant is blocked. Your car is waiting in the underground garage. The driver is on site." Changmin steps toward the table. There's only one object on the table, a silver frame. In the frame is a photograph of Layla. She's laughing, her head thrown back, her hair fluttering in the wind. Changmin stares at the photo for a few seconds. His expression doesn't change. Layla's beauty is a fact. Just as everything must be perfect today, his reputation doesn't tolerate mistakes, even on a day like this. "Okay," he says finally. "I'll be there in an hour. The final round of inspection is your task." Seok nods briefly and leaves. The door closes without a sound. Changmin is alone again. He adjusts the cuff of his shirt. Everything is under control. Every detail is in its place. Today, he is not just a groom, he is the face of his organization, and this face must express only strength and confidence. He glances again at Layla's photo. Today, she will be part of this picture. A perfect picture. He guarantees it. The huge dressing room smells of flowers and expensive perfume. Layla's dress lies on a special stand. It's enormous and white. Layla herself is already wearing the dress. She looks into a large full-length mirror. The dress is heavy. Lace, beads, silk. It's beautiful. The most beautiful she's ever worn. It costs a fortune. It fits her perfectly. The makeup artist and hairdresser just left, showering her with compliments. They said she looked like a queen, like a picture from a magazine. Layla turns in front of the mirror. Her reflection mirrors her movements. Flawless skin, large eyes, perfect makeup, an intricate hairstyle with woven pearls. She should feel like the happiest woman in the world. But inside, there's a cold, heavy lump. Her gaze falls on a small photograph on the vanity. It's a picture from their engagement. Changmin stands up straight, his arm wrapped around her waist. He's smiling, but his eyes stare into the camera, calm and cold, as if he's evaluating a deal rather than celebrating love. She recalls their conversations. He always admired her appearance. He said she had perfect features, that her photos brought in money, that she was a jewel that should shine. But when she spoke of her fears, her childhood, her dreams of becoming a designer, not just a model, he listened politely and quickly steered the conversation to other topics. Her beauty was a fact to him, like good weather, and what lay inside that beautiful shell seemed of no concern to him. Layla approaches the table and picks up a small velvet box. She opens it. Inside is no jewelry. Instead, she finds a shiny new hair clipper. She bought it a week ago. No one knows. She looks at the clippers, then at her reflection in her luxurious hairdo. Her heart pounds in her throat. This is madness. This will ruin everything. But another thought is louder. What if this is the only way to see the truth? Not her reflection in the mirror, but his true face? She puts the typewriter back in the box and hides it in one of the large bags. She's not done yet. There's still time to change her mind, but the uneasy chill inside doesn't go away. She looks again at the photo of Changmin's cold eyes, and it feels like her perfect dress has suddenly become tight and uncomfortable. The wedding hall is enormous and resembles a winter garden. White orchids, crystal chandeliers, and delicate white tulle are everywhere. The tables are covered with snow-white tablecloths, and crystal and silver sparkle. Soft classical music plays. The guests begin to arrive. They are important people, men in impeccable suits, women in expensive dresses, and modest but very valuable jewelry. They greet each other in quiet voices, exchange nods and smiles. Their smiles are correct, but not deep. Changmin's business partners, they respect him. Some fear him. They know he's a man of his word and a man of order. His wedding isn't just a celebration. It's an event that demonstrates his status, and they came to reaffirm their respect for that status. "This is a wonderful place," says an elderly man. Looking around the room, his wife silently agrees, adjusting her pearl necklace. She knows how much such orchids can cost out of season. "Changmin always does everything perfectly," notes another guest, a hotel chain owner. "Not a single mistake, and he chose a bride accordingly. Have you seen her photo? She's flawless." Conversations are quiet, like the rustling of leaves. Guests discuss the details of the reception, the latest business news. No one speaks loudly. No one laughs too openly. The atmosphere is beautiful, luxurious, but there's a slight tension in the air, like before an important meeting or the signing of a contract. Everyone is behaving appropriately. Everyone understands where they stand. They look at the altar, decorated with flowers. They wait, waiting for Changmin to appear, waiting for his famous bride to appear. They will be the perfect couple, a picture straight out of a glossy magazine. And everyone here plays their part in making this picture come true. So far, everything is going according to plan. Quiet, beautiful, and very, very tense. The door to the restroom closes quietly behind the last assistant. Layla is finally alone. A resounding silence falls over her after the hubbub of voices and congratulations. She stands in the middle of a room that resembles a boudoir. Makeup brushes, hairpins, and hairspray are scattered everywhere. She feels the weight of her hair and dress, as if she's wearing not clothes, but armor for a parade. Her hands reach for her bag. She knows exactly which pocket the small velvet box is in. Her fingers find it. She takes it out and opens the lid. On the black velvet lies a hair clipper. It's small, chrome, cold to the touch. She bought it in an ordinary store, in a mall, where no one knew her. The cashier didn't even look at it twice. Layla places the box on the vanity next to Changmin's photo. She sits down on a chair and looks between the photo and the typewriter. Her breathing becomes ragged. What is she planning? This is madness. This will ruin everything, ruin the most beautiful day. She imagines the faces of the guests, shock, condemnation, whispers behind her back. And then she imagines Changmin's face, his cold, assessing eyes. What will be in them? Anger, disappointment, or maybe something real? She picks up the clippers. They feel incredibly heavy. She runs her thumb over the metal teeth. She doesn't know how to use them. She's never cut her own hair. She's always had the best stylist. She suddenly realizes the absurdity of the situation. She's sitting in a dress that costs $500,000, with perfect makeup, holding a cheap clipper she bought at a mall. She's getting scared, really scared. She can stop everything, put the typewriter back, walk down the aisle the way everyone expects her to be, and continue living in this beautiful, cold, perfect world next to Changmin. Her hand is shaking. She's almost ready to put the typewriter back. Almost. Fragments of memories flash through Layla's mind. Not words of love, not tender moments. Other images emerge. She recalls showing Changmin her childhood photos, with pigtails and funny freckles. He looked at them and chuckled. "You look nothing like the queen I know." He meant it as a compliment, but she felt hurt. She recalls coming to him one day with a cold, a red nose, and no makeup. He looked at her with a slight grimace and said softly, "Darling, you should rest in another room. I don't want you to get sicker." He ordered a doctor's appointment for her, but his gaze betrayed something like disgust at this imperfection. She recalls telling him about her dream of opening a small studio to help aspiring models. He listened, nodded, and replied, "Why? You're already the face of major brands. Your beauty is already a business." He didn't hear her. He saw only beauty, which is already a business. And then she understands. She understands that she's not afraid of Changmin's anger. She's afraid he'll simply shrug, that he'll look at her with the same cold admiration and say, "You're still beautiful, but from now on, consult me." And that's it. Her rebellion, her despair, her attempt to shout her way through, all of it will turn into a minor domestic issue that he'll settle with a single phone call. He'll remain behind his mirrored shield, and she'll be on her side, beautiful and alone. This realization burns her more than fear, more than shame, more than rational arguments. Her hand stops shaking. Her fingers grip the cool body of the machine tightly. She raises her head and looks at her reflection, for the last time, as the world knows it, as Changmin knows it. She presses a small button on the side of the machine. A sound is heard, a loud, buzzing, rough, ugly sound. It cuts through the silence of the restroom. It sounds like a protest, like a point of no return. Layla freezes for a second, listening to the buzzing sound. It seems like the loudest sound she's ever heard. Then she slowly brings the clippers to her head, to her temple, where the carefully styled strands of her luxurious hair begin. She feels the teeth of the clipper touch her skin and hair. She makes the first movement, short, sharp. The first strand of dark, curly hair falls onto her bare shoulder, skims her skin, and falls silently to the floor at her feet. Layla holds her breath. She looks in the mirror. Her scalp is now a clear, even line of pale skin. The hair around her looks wild and out of place. There is no turning back now. This realization gives her a strange strength. She makes the second movement with more confidence. The third, almost abruptly, she moves the clippers across her head, not thinking about technique, not thinking about form. She simply shaves off this symbol, this ideal, this trap. Strand by strand, clump by clump, her hair falls. It falls onto her shoulders, onto her back, onto the hem of her dress, onto the floor. The mirror shows the old Layla disappearing, the one everyone knows, the one Changmin chose. The fear is still there. It squeezes her throat, but with it comes something new, a feeling of incredible, wild freedom. She destroys herself to test. What will remain? What is underneath it all? Finally, the buzzing stops. She turns off the machine. The sudden silence is deafening. Layla slowly raises her eyes and looks in the mirror. A stranger stands before her. Her head is covered in short, velvety dark stubble. She runs her hand over the top of her head. The skin is soft and strangely vulnerable to the touch. She sees the shape of her head, the line of her skull, her neck. Without the frame of her hair, her face seems different. Her features are sharper, more defined. Her eyes seem enormous. Her cheekbones appear higher. It is still her face, but it is the face of a warrior, not a doll. She's not beautiful in the usual soft sense. She's striking. She's strong. She's real. Her lips stretch into a smile, gentle, yet firm. Fear recedes, dissolving in a wave of chilling determination. The test has begun. Now it's Changmin's turn. She bends down, picks up the long folded veil from the floor, and carefully drapes it over her head. The thin fabric conceals everything. The mirror once again reflects the perfect bride in a snow-white dress. Only in the depths of her huge eyes now burns not timid hope, but a challenge. She is ready. The quiet hum of voices in the hall suddenly fades. The lights dim gently, leaving only the altar, adorned with white orchids, in a bright spot. The first chords of music begin to sound. It's a beautiful, gentle melody on cello and harp. Each note sounds clear and pure, without a single mistake. Changmin takes his place at the altar. He stands up straight, his hands folded calmly in front of him. He doesn't look around, doesn't search for the bride. He stares ahead, at the spot from which she will emerge. His face is a mask of calm confidence. He surveys the room with a quick, almost imperceptible glance. All the guests are in their places. The guards stand at the exits, frozen as statues. The musicians play flawlessly. The lighting is just right. Seok, standing among the guests in the front row, catches his eye and gives a barely perceptible nod. Everything is under control. Changmin almost feels a slight sense of satisfaction. Everything is going strictly according to plan. The organization, the discipline, the beauty, everything is top-notch. Even his own emotions are subject to strict order. He's not nervous. He's waiting. As if before signing an important agreement, his gaze glides over the guests' faces. He sees respect, obsequiousness, cool interest, nothing superfluous, exactly as it should be. He takes a small breath. Layla will appear now. The perfect bride, the final, most striking detail in this flawless picture. His career, his status, his life, all built into a perfect pyramid. And today, he places a perfect, shining crystal on its apex. Everything is logical. Everything is correct. The music swells slightly, signaling the bride's imminent arrival. Changmin allows himself a small, formal smile. It's intended for the guests and for the upcoming photos. Inside, everything is perfectly orderly and quiet, like his office. The doors at the end of the passage slowly open. A figure in white appears in the doorway. The silhouette is familiar to everyone from glossy magazines. A perfectly curved dress, a slender waist, a proud posture, but her face is hidden by a thick, thin veil. She resembles a beautiful ghost, a living statue. Layla takes the first step. Her dress rustles. She feels hundreds of eyes fixed on her, but now she doesn't feel the same fear. Under the veil, her new, strange face is hidden from everyone. It is her secret and her weapon. She walks. Her gait is even, confident, even slow, just as she has been taught at countless fashion shows. Step, pause, step. She doesn't look around. Her eyes are fixed on the figure in the black suit at the end of the aisle. She sees Changmin. He stands motionless, like a rock. His face is still impassive. He's watching. She tries to guess his thoughts, but she can't. He's a closed book. This has always irritated her, and now it frightens her. But this is precisely what drives her to continue. She wants to open this cover, to look inside. The guests held their breath. They saw only the picture, a beautiful bride in a dazzling gown, walking toward her influential groom. It was exactly what they expected. Some women glanced at the dress with a hint of envy. The men assessed the situation as a whole. Everything was going beautifully, solemnly, and perfectly. Layla walks the last few meters. She stops next to Changmin. Now she feels his physical presence, the cold confidence emanating from him. She turns to face him. The layers of her veil still separate them. He is on one side of a perfect illusion. She is on the other side of her new, shocking truth. The ceremony begins. The priest begins to speak. His voice is calm and melodic. He speaks of love, trust, fidelity. The words are beautiful, commonplace, as if memorized for hundreds of such ceremonies. Changmin listens, nodding at the appropriate points. His answers, when it's his turn, are clear and to the point. He doesn't falter, doesn't mince words. He speaks of support, of respect, of a shared journey. It sounds like a business commitment, serious and unbreakable. He pronounces his vow, looking at Layla's face, hidden by the veil. He makes a promise to someone he feels he knows perfectly well, to a picture-perfect person. Then it's Layla's turn. She takes his hands in hers. Her fingers feel cold. Through the thin glove, he feels a slight tremor. Or is he imagining it? She begins to speak. Her voice is quiet but firm. She doesn't lower her eyes. She looks straight at him, trying to discern his features through the veil. She vows fidelity and love, but in her words, unlike something else is woven into it. She says, "I vow to be real, and I vow to seek our truth." These are small deviations from the standard text that may seem poetic, but for Layla, they are full of meaning. Changmin notices the difference. His eyebrows furrow almost imperceptibly. He hadn't expected improvisation. Everything, including the vows, should have been agreed upon, predictable. These strange words seem unnecessary to him, inappropriate, but he immediately pushes this irritation aside. This is neither the time nor the place. She's probably just nervous. He squeezes her hands back when needed. His touch is confident, controlling, as if he's trying to convey a message through it. Everything is going according to plan. Hang in there. He's waiting for this part of the ceremony to be over, for him to finally remove that veil and see that familiar, beautiful smile that puts the finishing touch on a flawless event. The priest's words flowed smoothly, leading up to the most famous, most anticipated part of the ceremony. Layla had already recited her amended vows. Changmin had made his clear promises. All that remained were the formalities. And now, the priest's voice sounds especially solemn. "You may kiss your bride." A hush of anticipation descends on the hall. Everyone watches the couple. Everyone awaits the beautiful, touching conclusion of the film. The music has already faded. Changmin turns to Layla. There's not a hint of nervousness or hesitation in his movements. This is the next item on the program. A beautiful gesture that needs to be executed correctly. He takes a small but confident step forward. He raises his hands. His fingers, long and neat, find the edge of the veil. The fabric is soft and light. He gathers it into folds, lifting it on one side. The movement is slow, almost ceremonial. He knows all eyes are on his hands, on this gesture. Layla stands perfectly still. She doesn't help him, doesn't bow her head. She simply looks at him from beneath layers of veils. Her breathing is even, but her heart is pounding so loudly, she thinks she can hear it in the silence of the room. Changmin continues lifting the veil. The white fabric slowly moves away from her face, revealing first her chin, then her lips, which are pursed into a strange, joyless smile. He sees familiar features and feels a slight sense of relief. Everything is all right. He speeds up the movement to reveal her face completely, brush away the barrier, and complete the ritual with a kiss. He throws the veil back behind her head, and then his hand freezes in midair. His fingers still clutch the fabric, but they no longer move. He looks, but doesn't understand. His brain refuses to process the image. He sees Layla's face, her beautiful, wide eyes, her flawless skin, her cheekbones, her lips, but above that face, nothing. No dark, curly hair, no intricate updo, not a single pearl woven into the locks. Instead, there's a smooth head, glistening in the light. Short, almost invisible dark stubble. Her neck seems impossibly long and vulnerable. The image he's seen thousands of times in mirrors and photographs has been blown apart from the inside. He doesn't move. He just looks. The silence in the hall changed from expectant to oppressive. Someone in the front row gasped softly. The sound was like an exhalation. Then another. A whisper, abruptly cut off. The bench creaked slightly, as if someone had involuntarily recoiled. No one speaks. No one applauds. The hall is silent. The guests look from Layla's strange, almost alien beauty to Changmin, frozen like a statue. At his hand, still frozen in midair. At his face, from which the formal smile slowly fades, leaving a complete emptiness. Even the priest is silent, blinking in confusion. He doesn't know what to do next. This wasn't in his script. The silence becomes physical, pressing on the ears. ears. In this silence, a flower falls from the orchid on the altar. The sound of the fall seems like a cannon shot. Changmin finally lowers her hand. The veil falls onto her shoulders, but no longer conceals the truth. Her entire new appearance is revealed. Their eyes meet. Now there is no barrier between them. In Changmin's eyes, the first thing Layla sees is pure animalistic shock. The confusion of a man whose reality has suddenly been rewritten without his knowledge. His pupils are dilated. He does not blink. Then the shock begins to crystallize. He goes through a second of incomprehension, an attempt to find logic, and then a coldness appears in his eyes. Not anger, not fury, a deep, piercing ice. This ice freezes his features, makes his face stony. He does not look at her appearance with disgust. He looks through it. He looks at her, at the act behind it, at the challenge that was just thrown at him, publicly, on the most important day. In his cold gaze, she reads questions he would never utter out loud. How dare you? Did you agree? Is this a joke? And most importantly, why without warning? And her eyes answer. There are no apologies in them, none of the fear that was in the restroom. Now there is only pure, sharp determination and a smoldering spark of hope. She looks at him straight, almost unblinking. Her gaze says, "Yes, this is me. The real me. And now it's your turn. Show me who you are, the one who loves the picture or the one who sees me." This silent dialogue lasts a few seconds, but for the two of them, it feels like an eternity. It contains their entire history, all his cold compliments, all her unspoken doubts, everything that led to this moment. Layla sees the ice in his gaze not melting. It only grows harder. But deep down, where she's perhaps only imagining things, she searches for even a spark of something else. Understanding? Acceptance? But she sees only calculation. A quick, ruthless analysis of the damage and the next steps. She still holds his hands in hers. His fingers no longer respond to her touch. They have become as cold as his gaze. The silence in the hall becomes unbearable. It presses on the ears like water at great depth. It seems as if everything is frozen. The guests' breathing, time, life itself. Changmin stands motionless, his gaze still fixed on Layla. A storm rages within him. His first thought is anger, pure, furious anger at being forced into this situation, made into a spectacle, made into an object of discussion and whispers. He hates being in this position. He's always in control, and now that control has been snatched from him at the most crucial moment. The second thought is calculation, quick and cold, like a blade. What if he turns and leaves? It would be a humiliating failure. He'll look weak, capricious, easily manipulated by such a cheap provocation. Rumors will spread instantly. His reputation will suffer. His word will no longer be ironclad. He'll become a laughingstock. The third thought concerns Layla herself. Her actions aren't just rebellion. They're a test. He understands this immediately. She looks at him and waits, waiting to see what's more important to him, her or his pride, his image. These thoughts flash through his head in those few seconds while the room holds its breath. His face remains stony. Not a muscle twitches. He feels his heart beating steadily and loudly. He freezes his anger. He puts it aside, like one puts aside an important but unpleasant document for later. Now he needs to act. He takes a step forward, just one. But this step breaks the icy silence. This movement is decisive. It fills the space between them. He does not retreat. He accepts the challenge. Taking a step, Changmin turns his head toward the priest, not toward Layla. His gaze is now fixed on the confused man in the cassock. His gaze is heavy, commanding, demanding action. "Go on," Changmin says. His voice is quiet, but it cuts through the silence like a knife. There's not a hint of doubt in it, not a hint of a request. It's an order, firm, clear, and final. The priest startles, as if awakening from a dream. He blinks in confusion, frantically flipping through the book in his hands, trying to find where they left off. Yes, of course, he mutters. His voice trembles. Changmin turns back to Layla. Now he acts automatically. He takes her hand. His touch is formal, without warmth. He places the ring on her finger. The movement is precise and quick. He waits for her to place the ring on his. Layla does her part. Her fingers are cold. Something complex flickers in her eyes. Relief that he hasn't left, and a new fear at how he stayed. His coldness frightens her more than his possible anger. The priest haltingly pronounces them husband and wife. The words sound uncertain, as if he himself doesn't believe them. "You can, kiss the bride," he says, casting a worried glance at Changmin. Changmin leans down. He performs the necessary ritual. His lips touch Layla's for a brief, dry second. It's not a kiss, it's a seal. A stamp on a contract whose terms have just been changed without his consent. When he steps away, a ragged, hesitant clap echoes through the hall, then another. The applause erupts timidly, haltingly. No one smiles. People clap not from joy, but from embarrassment and a desire to fill the heavy silence. The ceremony is over, but but the sense of celebration is dead. After the ceremony, the guests are led to the adjacent room for an aperitif, and the newlyweds are left for a photo shoot. The photographer, a small, fussy man, is trying to do his job. His smile is too wide, and his cheerfulness seems false and forced. "Great! What a beautiful couple! Look at each other," he says, looking into the lens. Changmin stands next to Layla. He places his hand on her waist, as the script calls for, but his hand lies there motionless, like wood. He looks into the camera. His smile is a thin, even line of lips. There is no joy in his eyes, only icy calm and fatigue. Layla tries to smile naturally, but it doesn't work. Her smile is strained. She feels the weight of his hand and the coldness emanating from him. She feels the gazes of the photographer's assistants, the security guards, the remaining hotel employees in the hall. They all try not to look directly at her. Their gazes slide over her face and quickly dart away. They look at her dress, at the flowers, at Changmin, anywhere but her head. This silent disregard for her new appearance is worse than open laughter or condemnation. "Bride, would you mind tilting your head towards the groom?" the photographer suggests. Layla makes a slight movement. The photographer clicks the shutter. He looks at the camera screen, and his face tenses. The pictures are strange. Beautiful, but dead. There's no happiness in them. There's only the perfect picture and the terrible tension between two people. "Now for group photos with the guests," the organizer announces. The guests approach one by one. Their smiles are forced. They stand close, trying not to push or look directly at Layla. They hug her carefully, as if she were made of glass. A quiet, unnatural laugh erupts, then abruptly dies. Every shot is an effort. Every smile is a grimace. Changmin stands patiently through it all. He fulfills his role. He even utters a few commonplace phrases, thanking the guests. But his eyes remain empty. He watches this process from a distance, as an inevitable formality that must be endured to reach the next stage, until the moment when he is alone with Layla. And then the real conversation will begin. The banquet hall is magnificent. Long tables are laden with exquisite dishes. Glasses are filled with expensive champagne. But the food and drink are lacking appetite. The air is thick with awkwardness. The toasts begin. Seok is the first to rise. He says the correct, memorized words about loyalty, about a strong union. He doesn't look at Layla once. His gaze is fixed on Changmin, as if he's reporting on a job well done. The toast sounds dry, like a memo. The guests raise their glasses and quickly sip, hastening to lower their eyes. Changmin's longtime partner, an older man, stands up. He tries to crack a joke, but it falls into the deathly silence and bounces off without raising a smile. He mentions the bride's beauty and suddenly stumbles, looking at her shaved head. His sentence breaks off mid-sentence. He mutters, "To the newlyweds," and quickly sits down. Layla sits next to Changmin in the seat of honor. She feels like a museum exhibit. People glance at her furtively, with quick, frightened glances. No one comes up to congratulate her. The women are discussing something behind their menus, and their glances, sweeping over Layla, are full of incomprehension and horror. She sees one of them shake her head slightly. Changmin's behavior is impeccable. He stands to thank everyone for the toast. His speech is short and to the point. He speaks of new beginnings and shared goals. Not a single warm word, not a single glance in her direction. He cuts himself a perfect piece of steak, eating slowly and carefully. He answers the guests' questions about business, about plans for the next quarter. He makes small talk as if nothing has happened. But this normalcy is the most terrifying thing. He is completely detached. He is there in body, but his mind is somewhere else, in the cold space of calculation and deliberation. He does not hold her hand under the table. He does not whisper to her. He is simply playing the role of host, overseeing an unpleasant incident that does not concern him personally. The music changes. The orchestra begins to play a slow, traditional waltz. This is the signal for the newlyweds' first dance. All eyes turn to them again. Layla stands. Her dress is heavy. She feels every movement through the silk and crinoline. Changmin approaches her with formal politeness. He places one hand on her waist. The other takes her hand. His grip is firm, confident, even harsh. There is no tenderness in it. There is only control. They step out onto the empty parquet floor. He begins to lead. His steps are precise, measured. He's an excellent dancer. Layla follows him, her body remembering all her lessons. From the outside, it looks like a beautiful, graceful picture. Two perfect figures in a perfect dance, but their faces are close to each other. She feels his breath on her cheek. It is even and cold. He looks somewhere past her ear, into space, and then, to the sounds of a gentle waltz, he speaks. He doesn't whisper. He speaks through clenched teeth, barely moving his his lips. His voice is quiet, but every sound cuts into her like a needle. We'll talk later, when it's all over. You and me. This isn't an invitation. It's an announcement. It's a cold statement of fact. There's no threat in his tone, no emotion. There's only an unshakable certainty that this conversation will happen. And it won't be easy. Layla can't find anything to say. Her mouth is dry. She can only nod, feeling his fingers dig into her back through the fabric of her dress. He doesn't let go, doesn't soften his grip. He leads her in a circle, and this dance becomes the longest and most excruciating torture of the day. To the beautiful music, to the admiring, or feigned, glances of the guests, she dances with a man who has already become an icy stranger to her. The celebration is drawing to a close. The guests finally begin to say their goodbyes. They do so quickly, with visible relief. They approach, shake Changmin's hand, nod to Layla, avoiding direct eye contact, and hurry toward the exit. No hugs, no warm farewells, just formalities. Thank you for coming, Changmin repeats monotonously, standing by the door. His face is a polite mask. He looks people in the eye, and they look away first. Layla stands nearby. She's smiling, but her face is frozen with fatigue. She feels every muscle ache from the constant tension. She catches glances of pity or condemnation, and this is worse than outright insult. Behind her, whispers are heard, fading as soon as she turns her head. Finally, the last guest leaves. The cars quietly pull away from the entrance. The orchestra packs up its instruments. The hotel staff begins quietly clearing the tables. A thunderous silence, drowned out by the music and the voices, descends upon the hall. It presses physically on the ears. Changmin stops smiling. His mask falls, revealing an empty, tired face. He doesn't look at Layla. He looks at the empty hall, at the crumpled tablecloths, at the wilting flowers. He adjusts his cuff and turns to face her. Let's go, he says simply. No emotion, just a statement. The party is over. Now comes the time to pay for it. He walks toward the elevator, without looking back, without checking to see if she's following him. He's sure she will, as with everything else. Layla stands for a moment longer, looking at his back. Then she takes a deep, shaky breath and follows him, trailing the train of her luxurious white dress, which has suddenly become unbearably heavy. The elevator doors close, swallowing them up, and in the vast, empty banquet hall, only a heavy, ringing silence and the scent of wilted orchids remain. The elevator ascends to the top floor in complete silence. The doors open directly into the hallway of their wedding suite. The room is enormous. Panoramic windows offer views of the city at night, sparkling with thousands of lights. Inside, everything is decorated in beige and gold tones. There are sofas, a fireplace, and a bottle of champagne in a silver bucket, and fruit on the table. It's a picture from a luxury magazine. But now this place resembles a beautifully furnished cage. Changmin enters first. He takes off his jacket and hangs it over the back of a chair with a precise, economical motion. He doesn't look back at Layla. He approaches the bar and pours a glass of whiskey, not champagne. He drinks it in one gulp and sets the glass down. The sound of the glass hitting the tabletop is too loud in the silence. Layla pauses at the entrance. She feels awkward, almost ashamed in this magnificent dress. Here, in this quiet room, she feels like an uninvited guest. She slowly, almost timidly, walks toward the center of the room. Her hands rise to her head. Her fingers fumble with the pins that fasten the veil to what is no longer there. She pulls them out one by one. The pins fall with a soft clatter to the carpet. She reaches for the veil itself, the fabric that has been her shield and her prison all day. She throws it off her head. It falls like a heavy cloud to the floor, encircling her feet. The air touches her shaved head. She feels cool and strange. She is finally, completely naked before him, in every sense. She has no more protection, not hair, not fabric, only her face and the truth that brought her here. Layla looks at Changmin. He's standing by the bar, his back to her, looking out the nighttime window. His posture is straight and unapproachable. She takes a deep breath. It's time to talk. It's time to explain. Maybe now, alone, he'll understand. Changmin, her voice is quiet, but ringing in the silence. He doesn't turn around. I had to do it. I couldn't do it anymore, she begins haltingly. It was always just about how I looked. You, other people, everything. I was like a beautiful thing, a painting on the wall. She takes a step forward, speaking faster, the words finally spilling out, the ones that have been building for months. I was afraid that this was all you saw, Just the face, just the hair, just the image. I wanted to know. I needed to know that you loved me, the real me, even if I wasn't picture perfect, even if I did something shocking. She sees his shoulders remain motionless. He doesn't react. This makes her speak with greater fervor, with hope. And today, when you didn't leave, when you said, let's continue, her voice trembled with emotion. You can't imagine how happy I was. It meant that I was more important to you, not the scandal, not what people thought. You got through it. You passed my test. And now we can start everything for real, without masks. I'm so happy, Changmin, so happy that you turned out to be stronger than I thought. She falls silent, waiting. Her heart is pounding. She's just poured out her soul to him, all her fears and all her hope. She's waiting for him to turn around, for his ice to melt, for him to finally see her and embrace her. The room is quiet. The only sound is the quiet hum of the air conditioning system. Changmin doesn't turn around. He doesn't move. It seems he's not even breathing. Then he slowly turns. His face expresses nothing. No anger, no understanding, no joy. It is completely blank. He looks at her, but not into her eyes. His gaze slides over her, as if assessing an unfamiliar object that was delivered to his room by mistake. He silently walks away from the bar. He approaches the table by the bed. He begins to undress, but not as a tired man undresses. It's a ritual, slow and precise. He takes off his watch, an expensive, delicate mechanism. He places it on the table with a quiet but distinct click. The sound seems very loud. Then his fingers reach for the cufflinks on his shirt. He unbuttons one, then the other. Each movement is deliberate, unhurried. His eyes never leave a spot on the wall in front of him. He doesn't look at her, even though she stands in the center of the room. He rolls the cufflinks into his palms and places them next to the watch, carefully, next to it. He unbuttons the cuffs of his shirt, rolls them up, once and again. The movements are methodical. He remains silent the entire time. Her words, her confession, her joy, all of it hung in the air and seemed to fall at his feet, like that very veil. He didn't even bother to step on them. He simply ignored them. This silence is more terrifying than any rage. It contains a complete invalidation of everything she just said. Her test, her feelings, her true beginning. For him, it's all simply not worth words, not even worth a glance. He's finished with the cuffs. Now he just stands there, finally looking straight at her. But there's no answer to her confession in his gaze. There's only anticipation, waiting for her to finish. And the question, is that all? Changmin's silence became so thick it was palpable. He stood there, looking at Layla, his eyes devoid of anything but cold analysis. He didn't see a joyful bride before him. He saw an adversary who had broken their agreement. He took a small step forward. His voice, when he finally spoke, was quiet, even, and utterly dispassionate. There was not a trace of emotion in it. You acted without asking my opinion, he began. Every word fell like a stone. You didn't discuss it. You just did it. So, that means it's okay now. Layla froze, not understanding that where he was leading. She still hoped to see at least a spark of understanding in his eyes. Changmin continued, now it's my turn. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to do 2 things. First, I'm going to shave my head, bald, like you. He paused, letting her take his words in. Then he continued even more measuredly. Second, I'm getting a tattoo, big and noticeable, right here. He slowly ran his index finger down his cheek, from his cheekbone to his jawline. On my face, for everyone to see. Always. He said it as calmly as if he were talking about a business meeting, not as revenge. Not as an impulse, as a logical, considered decision, as his right. Since you've allowed yourself to change our overall picture without my consent, he concluded, then I can too. That's fair. He finished and waited. He didn't smile. He didn't get angry. He simply watched as his words reached her mind and began their work. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. An announcement of the new rules of the game he had just established. At first, Layla simply didn't understand. Her brain refused to process the meaning of what was said. Then the words echoed inside her. Icy. What? She whispered. Then louder, with mounting horror. What did you say? He didn't repeat. He just looked. Panic washed over her in a wave, hot and sickening. She took a step toward him, her hands reaching forward of their own accord, as if to stop an action that no longer existed. No! No, you can't! Changmin, this is insane! Her voice rose to a scream. A tattoo on your face? You're not some street thug. What are you thinking? She saw it before her eyes, his flawless, stern face, disfigured by harsh black lines, his head bald as a prisoner's, his reputation, his status, his authority, all of it crumbling to dust. People will be afraid of you. They'll point fingers. Your partners. They'll refuse to work with you. It'll kill your business. She spoke quickly, choking, searching for any argument. You'll look terrible. Horrible. I don't want my husband to be to be like that. She grabbed his hand, but he didn't respond to her touch. Please, her voice trembled, tears welling in her eyes. Don't do this. This is a mistake. We can forget everything. Start over. But not this. Don't do this to your face. In her panic, there was no concern for him, no thought of his feelings. There was only a desperate, selfish vision of the collapse of the world, the image to which she had become accustomed. She feared for herself, for who she would now have to walk through life with. Changmin listened to her screams, her pleas. He watched her eyes widen in horror. Tears streamed down her cheeks, and something in his own gaze finally changed. It didn't melt. It hardened completely. Something like cold, merciless satisfaction appeared in it. His theory was confirmed. He slowly but firmly freed his hand from her grip. He didn't push her away. He simply pulled away. Then he spoke. His voice was quieter than before, but every word hit like a hammer. Ah, he said, and there was so much contempt in that short sound that Layla fell silent, gasping for breath. So that's it. He leaned a little closer to her, and his eyes finally caught hers, not letting go. So your love, your feelings, your real beginning, all of it depends on how I look? He asked, his tone not a question, but a statement. On my hairstyle? On the lack of a tattoo on my cheek? Layla opened her mouth, but couldn't speak. Her own panic had turned against her. You set up a test, Changmin said, his voice as icy and clear as a judge delivering a verdict. But you didn't test me. You tested yourself, and you failed. He straightened up, looking down at her. His posture was one of final, irrevocable closeness. I passed your test. I stayed, but you didn't. You were only willing to love me in the package that suited you, the one that didn't ruin the picture. He turned away from her, as if removing her from his internal accounts. The conversation was over. The verdict had been passed. And in that verdict, there was no room for her tears or her justifications. Changmin's words hung in the air like a death sentence. You failed the test. Layla stood there, paralyzed. Her mind refused to accept the meaning of what he'd said. This was some kind of mistake, an act. He couldn't be serious. Changmin interrupted her chaotic thoughts. He continued speaking in the same calm, businesslike tone he used when giving orders in his office. There was no malice or pain in that tone. There was only a pure, irrefutable statement of facts. Since our marriage has been based on dishonesty and manipulation from day one, he said, looking past her, continuing this union makes no sense. He paused briefly, as if checking the chain of logic. Tomorrow morning, my lawyers will prepare all the necessary divorce papers. The papers will be delivered to you here. You will receive a fair financial settlement. My people will take care of the rest. He said this as calmly as if he were discussing the division of assets in a failed business deal. There was no regret or accusation, simply a statement. The deal was canceled due to a breach of fundamental terms. He even used the impersonal term, my people, completely erasing himself from the equation of their shared affairs. Layla tried to speak, but only a croak came out. Her test, her triumph, her hope for a new beginning, all of it had instantly turned into a legal proceeding. He didn't argue. He didn't shout. He was simply closing the book on the project called Marriage to Layla. Having announced his decision, Changmin didn't wait for a response. Her reaction no longer interested him. He finished speaking and moved on to action. He turned toward the chair where his jacket hung. Every movement was slow, precise, and final. He picked up the jacket and shook it out. Though there wasn't a speck of dust on the fabric, he put it on. He adjusted the collar of his shirt beneath the jacket. These small, habitual gestures seemed terrible in this situation. He was going to leave. Just leave. After everything, he checked his pocket, pulled out his phone, and glanced at the screen. Everything was fine. The world continued to spin. Layla found her voice. Weak, broken. Changmin, wait. We can talk. He didn't even turn around. He'd already said everything he needed to say. The conversation was over the moment he uttered the phrase about the failed test. Everything else was just technical details. He headed for the door. His steps were firm and even on the soft carpet. He didn't look back at her, standing in the middle of the luxurious room in her wedding dress, her head shaved. He didn't look back at their marriage bed, at the unfinished champagne. He reached the door and placed his hand on the handle. Changmin! Her cry was full of despair and last hope. He opened the door. He stepped out into the hallway, and without looking back, he slammed it behind him. The sound of the door slamming echoed softly, but chillingly, clearly in the room. It wasn't a slam of anger. It was the soft but final click of the lock, physical confirmation that it was over. He was gone. And this time, forever. Layla woke up cold. She didn't immediately realize where she was. Then the memory came flooding back, heavy and nauseating. She was lying on a huge bed, on silk sheets, still wearing her wedding dress. The dress was rumpled, the corset pressing against her ribs. Her makeup was smudged. She lay curled up on the edge of the bed. The other half was untouched. the sheets pulled perfectly straight. He hadn't returned. Sunlight streamed in sharp stripes through the blinds. The day was clear and indifferent. The room was absolutely, oppressively quiet. Not even the city noise from above could be heard. Only the quiet hum of the minibar refrigerator. Layla sat up slowly. Her body ached. Her head felt heavy, as if from a long illness. She looked around. Everything remained as perfect as yesterday. Nothing hinted at a disaster, except one thing. On the glass table by the sofa lay a single object, an envelope made of thick, expensive paper. It lay where the vase of flowers had stood yesterday, neatly, in the center. Layla stood up. Her legs wouldn't obey her. She walked to the table as if in a dream. There was no stamp or address on the envelope, only her name, printed in a crisp, impersonal font. She took the envelope. It was heavy. She opened it. Inside was a stack of papers. On the first page, at the top, in large letters, was written, "Divorcement and Property Division Agreement." The words danced before her eyes. She tried to read it, but only understood isolated phrases. Undertakes to pay a lump sum compensation. Aussi, the parties have no property claims against each other. The procedure will be carried out using a simplified procedure. Everything was ready, neat, clean, efficient, just as he'd promised. His men had worked through the night while she slept, broken, on the edge of the bed. She dropped the envelope. The paper scattered across the glass tabletop with a soft rustle. Financial statements, asset lists, agreement clauses, her marriage, her love, her drama, all reduced to these dry, soulless pages. She stood alone in the center of a luxurious, quiet, immaculate room. She wore a dirty wedding dress. Her head was shaved, and on the table lay legal documents, ending a story that hadn't even lasted a day. The morning after the wedding, the morning after the end, Layla stood and looked at the scattered papers. At first, there was simply an unbearable sharpness of pain, like a blow. Then the pain began to recede, leaving behind a strange, icy numbness. She expected tears, hysteria, the desire to break everything, but none of it came. Instead, understanding came, final and irrevocable. His action wasn't an emotion. It was a result, a cold, measured, logical result. He didn't shout, didn't smash dishes, didn't accuse her of base ingratitude. He simply made a decision, as he makes dozens of decisions every day, and carried it out. No scandal, no showdown, just these papers on the table, and emptiness, a huge, bottomless emptiness in her chest, and in this quiet room. She looked at her reflection in the dark television screen, a distorted, hazy image of a man in white. This man was no longer a bride. She was already a divorced wife. The marriage had lasted less than a day. It was so absurd that she didn't even want to laugh. She walked slowly, like a robot, to the bathroom. She turned on the water and washed her face. The cold water washed away the smudged makeup. She looked in the mirror, at her clean, pale face, with its short stubble instead of hair. She had done this to prove something, but the only thing she had proven was the opposite of what she had hoped for. She had proved him right. She had lost. And the worst part wasn't the loss. The worst part was how easily and methodically he'd done it, without a single unnecessary word. Simply, he'd closed the door and sent the papers. That was the true emptiness. The absence of even the anger that would have somehow justified her actions. Only icy silence and a stamp on the paper. Chang Min was in his office. Not the one at the hotel, but his real main office. It smelled of wood, leather, and silence. There were no traces of yesterday. No flowers, no congratulations. He was sitting at the table. He was wearing a different suit, dark gray, just as impeccable. His face was freshly shaved. There was no tattoo on his cheek. His head was unshaven. It was simply Chang Min, the same as always. He was looking through documents on his tablet. A cup of black coffee sat untouched next to him. His face was focused. Seok entered the office. He looked tired but collected. He placed a folder in front of Chang Min. "Everything is ready as you ordered," Seok said. His voice was low and even. Chang Min opened the folder. Inside were copies of the same documents that were now in Layla's room, as well as additional papers, bank orders, notifications to property managers, instructions for re-registering several assets. Everything was laid out in order, clear and concise. Chang Min said, skimming through the pages, "Begin the process. Leave the apartment in the residential complex in her name. Complete the money transfer today. Terminate all contracts with her modeling agency in our name." "Done," Suk nodded. He awaited further instructions. Chang Min put the folder down. He turned to the window. The city was living its life. Yesterday was a distant memory. It had been an incident, a system glitch. The glitch had been fixed, and the system was returning to normal. "And Sok?" Changmin said without turning around. "Yes, boss?" "Remove all photographs from my personal residence. All of them." Suk nodded briefly. "Understood." Changmin picked up the tablet again. The delivery schedule was on the screen. Work continued. No wedding, no marriage. There was only work, and a cold, pure clarity in his head that neither tears, nor razors, nor inspections could disturb. The rumors began during the night. First, they were whispered by the drivers delivering the guests, then by the maids cleaning the banquet hall the next morning. By midday, they were already creeping through the offices, restaurants, and beauty salons. "Did you hear about Changmin's wedding?" "No, why not? Everything went perfectly. I saw the photos." "What photos?" "There's a scandal." The bride, she arrived bald. She was walking in with a veil on, and then, bam! Not a single hair left. "What? Why? Is she sick?" "No, they say it's some kind of performance, or a test for him, to see how he reacts." "And how is he?" "And he got married. He saw it through to the end." And the next morning, a divorce. They sent her the papers. It can't be. In one day? They say he didn't even spend the night in the room. He left right after the banquet, cold as ice. The rumors grew more detailed. Someone claimed to have seen Layla carried out of the hall in hysterics. Another swore that Changmin ordered security to throw her out of the hotel naked. There was talk of a hidden illness, a bet, a former lover's revenge. Facts mixed with fiction, but the core remained unchanged and shocking. An incredible stunt and a swift, ruthless divorce. In business circles, the discussion was more reserved, but no less interesting. Over dinner, two of Changmin's partners exchanged opinions. Tough, but consistent. She publicly embarrassed him. He couldn't stand it. "I agree. Weakness is like death to him right now. Better to be tough, but predictable. Everyone knows now. Cross the line with Changmin. That's it. It's the end. No more discussion." An expensive test for a girl, though. She ordered it herself. Rumors reached Layla, or rather her few remaining friends, who called her, filled with anxious curiosity under the guise of support. She didn't answer. She sat in the same quiet apartment, which was now hers, and listened to the hum of silence. Her story had become an urban legend, but this legend contained no truth about her pain. There was only a scandalous plot, a bald bride, and a boss who doesn't forgive inspections. Her feelings, her fear, her mistake, all of it vanished, dissolved in the simple and cruel moral of this gossip. Changmin stands by the window in his office. The business day is drawing to a close. The city lights are glimmering below. His face is calm, but there's a slight weariness in his eyes. He's not thinking about Layla as a person. He's analyzing the incident. It's not the act itself that irritates him. It's not her shaved head. If she had come to him the day before and said, "I want to do this. It's important to me," he might even have found it somewhat audacious. He respects bold decisions, but a decision made in secret is different. It's a betrayal of basic trust. It's as if his business partner had signed an important contract behind his back. That's not how to act. But what hurt him most was something else, the public spectacle. She staged this test not in a private setting, but on the stage, in front of all his people, partners, and subordinates. She made him the object of discussion and whispers. She put him in a position where his reaction was being assessed by dozens of eyes. This wasn't a test of his feelings. It was a public challenge to his authority, and authority is the only currency that has real value in his world. He looks at his reflection in the dark glass. He doesn't regret his decision. He saw her panic when the subject of his appearance came up. In that moment, everything became completely clear. Her rules were one-sided. She wanted to be loved in any form, but she wasn't ready to accept him in any form. Her love was conditional. His decision was unconditional and final. He turns away from the window. The incident is over. The system had glitched, but it hadn't broken down. It had even strengthened. Now everyone knows for sure. Crossing the line with Changmin means losing everything. No hysterics, but forever. He returns to the table. New contracts are laid out on it. Real business. No emotions. No checks. Only mutually beneficial terms. Layla is sitting on the floor in the living room of her new apartment. The room is spacious, bright, and characterless. There's almost no furniture, just a few boxes in the corner. She got this place through a prenuptial agreement. It feels like a handout, or payment for silence. She looks at her hands. She's no longer crying. The tears are gone. All that remains is a heavy, oppressive emptiness. Now that the shock has passed, she sees everything with terrifying clarity. Her actions seem not courageous and profound, but foolish and naive, a childish rebellion. She wanted to prove something to the world and to him, but in the end, she only proved her own immaturity. She played at lofty emotions, at true love, but found herself unprepared for the consequences of her own defiance. The image of a rebel, a free woman who challenged the system, now evokes only a bitter smile. A true rebel isn't afraid when a counterattack comes in kind, but she was afraid. Afraid for his reputation, for his face, for how they would look. She demanded unconditional love, but found herself trapped by conditions. She approaches the large mirror in the hallway, which is propped against the wall for now. She looks at her reflection. Her short hair has grown out a bit, turning into a soft buzz cut. Her face now seems alien to her. There's no longer the former sparkle in her eyes, only weariness and shame. She tested him, but ended up subjecting herself to the most rigorous tests, and failed. She turns and looks at the empty apartment. It's quiet. He's not here. And worst of all, the girl she used to be is no longer here. She died the moment he slammed the door, leaving behind only this lost, lonely woman with a cold lesson she doesn't know how to apply now. Several months passed. Changmin still runs his empire. No facial tattoos, of course. No baldness. The wedding story has become a quiet legend, only cementing his reputation as a man not to be trifled with. His decisions have become even more deliberate, even more emotionless. He works, meets with partners, makes deals. Sometimes he sees a familiar face in a magazine or on a billboard. He regards it disinterestedly, as he would any other product on the market, and turns his attention to something more important. This chapter is closed. The lesson has been learned. Trust is the foundation of everything, and public spectacle is a luxury he cannot afford. Layla is trying to rebuild her life. After the initial shock, her agency saw potential in her new look. She became the face of a flamboyant advertising campaign for a clothing brand. Photos of the bald bride, a symbol of freedom from convention, are splashed across magazines. She attends castings and occasionally lands jobs. But now she's trailing not just a beauty, but a scandalous history. Some see her as a victim, others as a calculating provocateur. There's work, but it's a different kind of work. She's no longer just a pretty picture. She's a character with a story that everyone knows. Their paths no longer cross. The city is big. The worlds they orbit, though they touch edges, no longer have points of intersection for the two of them. Changmin avoids events where she might be. Layla, learning he'll be attending some private reception, declines the invitation. A lesson was learned on both sides. He learned that even the most beautiful appearance can conceal an immaturity capable of damaging what matters most, reputation and order. She learned that true feelings are tested not by grand gestures, but by a quiet willingness to accept the consequences. And that rebellion, lacking responsibility, looks not like heroism, but like a foolish, childish prank. They live their own lives. He in his flawless, controlled world of deals and power. She in a world of images and shadows, where her main calling card has become her own, poorly thought-out tragedy. And between them lies a quiet, insurmountable stretch of silence, wider than any door that can be slammed shut.